A fascist or a fascist government is exactly the opposite of democracy. People come in. Authoritarian is the exact opposite of democracy. In a democracy, the people are in charge. In an authoritarian government, there is one leader, and the leader has full command of all people. Okay? So, when Anne hears about the fascists being defeated in Italy, she's happy because the fascist party in Italy are allies with the Germans, the Nazis. So let me write that down. Italy are allies of the Germans, and when the fascists are defeated in Italy, she is hopeful because it means that the British have invaded Italy and that they now have control over part of Europe. This is important because it signifies the end of the war, at least that the end of the war is coming. So this is why Anne was hopeful. I'm going over this. This was in the first half of the book because when I graded your exams, I realized how many of you got the question wrong. So this is important to understand. But we're also talking about furthermore about the global awareness and history of this time. Tell me, what year was India? When was the independence of India? What year? 1947. When this book ends, what year is it? 1944, exactly. So, 1944, 1947, they're very, very close. During the time that Anne was writing this book, the independence movement was happening in India. So, again, Anne Frank writes about Gandhi. In chapter 4, she talks about Gandhi is fasting in India and is leading an independence movement. Now, while this does not play a fundamental role in the book, it's important to take note of this because it shows that Anne, even though she is in hiding, has contact with the outside world. Additionally, they use the radio, which is where they find out all their information, to hear about the British and their activities, that the Americans have joined the war, and the Dutch government's in exile. Remember, the Netherlands is where they are. And the Dutch government, that being the governments of the Netherlands, escaped to England at the beginning of the war. So the Dutch Queen, Queen Beatrix, talks on the radio often, and Anne and her family hear this. In this way, she really stays connected to the world. Now, as you go on reading, Anne talks about less and less about what's going on in the annex. She does talk about her love for Peter, Van Dam, not Van Dam, Peter Wessel, but then how she gets into a relationship with Peter Van Dam. But she is continually talking about what's going on with Germany, what's going on with the British and the Americans. So that's pretty much it for that first part. So December 1942, the Frank family celebrates two festivals, religious festivals in the secret annex. They celebrate Chanukah, which is a Jewish festival of lights. Please write this down. And they celebrate St. Nicholas Day. Which is the Christian related to Christmas. The Netherlands, again, where they're staying, is a Christian nation. Just like, St. Nicholas is the person that you might know as Santa Claus, but in the Netherlands we call him St. Nicholas. His birthday is on December 5th, while the birthday of Jesus is on December 25th. Nonetheless, they celebrate both of these festivities in the secret annex. Now, the Anne Frank family, the Van Dam family, and Mr. Dussel, they're all Jewish. Nonetheless, they celebrate a Christian holiday. And what this really shows is that there's an identity problem. And that identity problem goes along with this quote. One of the biggest problems that Anne has is she does not understand why she has to be in hiding. She doesn't understand why it is that the Nazis are persecuting them just for being Jewish. Otto Frank, her father, and also Mr. Van Dam, both come from Germany. They were born in Germany, and Frank was born in Germany. They were all born in Germany. First, they're Germans. However, when the war starts, Hitler takes away their German nationality, and they are no longer German citizens. Now, if you are all Indians, and for whatever reason, the government takes away your Indian citizenship, would you still feel like an Indian? Yeah, you would. Because you're an Indian, you were born here, you celebrated all of the festivities, everything you know has to do with Indian culture and life. So you feel like an Indian, even if you go to a different country. Just as, like when I'm here in India, or when I'm in America, I still feel like a Dutch person, because I'm Dutch, and that's what I know. So when the family moves to the Netherlands, they still feel German, but they no longer are German. And in one of her passages, Anne writes, quote, "The Germans, what a fine species, how wonderful they are," something along that line. But it quickly says, no, I cannot be happy with German people because they are the mortal enemies of the Jewish people. And she is, of course, again, Jewish. So this is a conflict within Anne because she is both German and Jewish. So she has an identity problem. She wants to be German, but everything that's going on right now in her life tells her she can't be German. So she must identify herself with being Jewish, but even that doesn't really satisfy her. So her family really clings to the Dutch perspective. And the Dutch perspective is Christian. So they celebrate St. Nicholas's Day, and they celebrate Hanukkah. All of the helpers, Mr. Bopeter and all of the people who work in the office are Christian. So this also helps. They want to celebrate Christian holidays, and they do so. Let's see what else I wrote down. Basically, the last part about this identity is that what it comes down to is that the Anne Frank family are now more Dutch than they are German, and it creates a big problem, and it's probably one of the biggest horrors of this war. It shows that a girl like Anne Frank has to go through these sort of problems. And I said it was related to this quote, so I'll read it. "I sometimes wonder if anyone will ever overlook my ingratitude and not worry about whether or not I'm Jewish, and merely see me as a teenager badly in need of some good plain fun." So, whether or not I'm Jewish. She doesn't even want to be Jewish. She doesn't really care. She just wants to be a teenager. And like we've talked about before, she's just like you guys, just a teenager. I have the movie of Anne Frank, and once you guys are done reading part 2, we'll watch it. Hopefully with all the other 10 classes if they finish it on time, but we'll see. In one of the last scenes of the movie, because I've already watched it, Otto Frank brings out a box which he has from the war, the First World War. Remember, this is the Second World War that we're in. And it's actually, it says, Lieutenant Otto Frank of the German Army. So, just like many other Jewish people, Otto Frank fought in the First World War. And in the scene in the movie, a Nazi comes in and says to him, "Where did you get this box? This is a German box, you are Jewish." And Otto says, "I fought in the war. I am your ally, but then you made me your enemy." So, this is part of the big problem. Alright, give me a second to recalibrate here. Do you guys have any questions about the first half of the book? Because you should be reading this next. Excuse me, I'm blanking out. I'm forgetting what else I had to say. What did I write down for part 3 on the board? Did I write it down? Yes. No. Honestly, I ran out of things to say. Stop recording. She's recovering from sickness, and then she talks about 2 dreams she has, 2 separate dreams. One is about her grandmother, and the other one is about her friend. And I think in the notes I said Hannah Lee, but in this book she is referred to as Lise. Does anybody remember what she thinks of her grandmother when she has the dream? Why she has the dream about her grandma? No? It's okay. Yeah.
She was very close to her grandma and she misses her.
Mm-hmm.
She misses her a lot and she even starts crying that why have we gone, and she just regrets that why not get my sort of dream. And she used to be here, I used to share everything with her, but now I'm missing her a lot. So
yeah, great, perfect. So she misses her grandmother, and as she was saying is that Anne used to talk with her grandmother very often. Kind of like how Anne talks to her diary. The grandmother was a friend, someone she could go to for security. The fact that Anne would dream about this shows a couple of things. Yes, she misses her grandmother, but also this war has caused so many problems of insecurity that even in her dreams, even in the subconscious, this is something that Anne must worry about, being caught every day. Then she has another dream about her friend, who is also Jewish. And does anybody remember what I said about this person? It says no automatically. The friend was, again, also Jewish. But Anne has a dream about her because Anne realizes about herself how good she has it. As a Jewish person who is in hiding and is no longer, or does not have to worry about being sent to the concentration camp. And Anne dreams about her friend, and in the diary writes, "I'm sorry that I did not do more to be nice to you when we were together. And I'm sorry that you had to go to the concentration camp and that I am your safe." And so she talks about this several times, about being safe and being happy that she's not at the concentration camp. But nonetheless, she's always talking about not looking outside the windows and seeing the non-Jewish or the Christian people playing outside. And again, it goes back to the fact that she wants to have some good fun. She's a teenager. Would you guys like it if you were stuck in a room like this with 8 other people all day, every day for 2 years straight? I think it would drive you nuts, wouldn't it? So, especially if you look outside the window, you see all the other kids playing. You're, man, that looks like a lot of fun. I wish I could do that. I know I would. And so, again, Anna says, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be alive, but really, this sucks. Can I please go outside? I want to have some fun with my friends. Also, at the beginning of chapter 6, Anna, it's really, she's already been there for a little bit over a year, and she starts rereading some of her diary. She looks and says, wow, I was really kind of a crazy person. I was very emotional, I was hot-headed, and I was so awful to my mom. In the first half of the diary, she's always talking about how awful her parents are, how much she doesn't like being the child who is always told that she's doing things wrong. And now she's starting to reconsider this. She says, maybe I was being a bit too harsh and I was not mature enough to see life from the perspective of another person. So tomorrow we'll continue. If you haven't gotten the book already, get the book. Start reading chapter 6. If you haven't already started, then we can see where we're at. Thank you for being quiet and listening.